Welcome to Cookbook Corner, the show where two librarians each test drive a cookbook from the collection here at Sterling Heights Public Library. My name is Lindsay.
I'm Brent.
And today, what are we looking at for you?
Today I have got 12 recipes by Cal Peternell. I like this one. I'm looking forward to talking about this one.
All right, sounds good. And I have Wafu Cooking by Sonoko Sakai, everyday recipes with Japanese style. And I'm also very excited about this one.
Cool.
So why don't you start us off?
Okay, so this thing here was a little bit of an unexpected gem for me. I was going through the collection and kind of looking around and thinking to myself, what am I going to do this month? And I kind of ran across this one. I've never heard of this guy, but when I kind of took a look at this thing, it was unusual in several ways. It is not a traditional cookbook. It's a little bit more of a narrative with recipes. You don't really want to go through and just kind of page through this thing and look for a recipe for this and a recipe for that. You actually want to read this one, including the intro. It has forewords by Alice Waters and Michael Pollan, and if you have any familiarity with the foodie scene, those are big names. Mm-hmm. This guy has worked as a chef at Chez Panisse for decades, so he's got the cred.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
Does he come off as a longtime veteran of professional kitchens? Is he approachable in the way he writes?
Yes. So the premise behind the way that this book was set up and how this thing works is he raised his kids and taught them to cook, and then when he sent his eldest out into the world, and he explains this in the book, he got a phone call. Hey, Dad, how do I do? What do I do? And he started thinking about it.
Training wheels are off, yeah.
This is his answer.
Okay.
This is, okay, well, I sent a young person out into the world with a set of skills and they still needed a little help. So I started thinking about it and I started writing about it.
Okay.
Dad
can't be looking over your shoulder, so.
Yeah. So my take on this, after having read it cover to cover, because again, it is not just a page through and check the index. If you are sending a young person out into the world and you want them to be able to feed themselves, this is a good book.
Yeah.
Consider it as a graduation present. It is foundational. It is not fussy. It is not pretentious. This guy has a serious background in teaching and training, and it comes through.
It's not a brick either. It's a nice size.
No, it's really not.
Yeah.
Now, the title is 12 recipes. Full disclosure, there are more than 12 recipes in here. There are more than 12 chapters. There's actually 13. But what his premise on this is, you start with the basics and you build on them. He teaches you the rules and then tells you that you have the freedom to break them. He starts out with, things like toast. Yeah, I know, right. But he addresses this as, how to do breadcrumbs, how to do croutons, how to do, a couple of different types of toast. And I'm not just talking about, throwing 2 slices of white bread in the toaster and hitting the button. This is more than that. And then what to do with it, how to use those croutons, those breadcrumbs, that toast, where you can use this as a foundation for other meals and not just breakfast.
Yeah, so it branches in different directions.
Yes, he moves into a couple of different ways to use, to make eggs, to prepare eggs, and then how to use them and how to build on that,
I love a start with basics and build on it situation.
Exactly,
I get so many people, when I do show people the cookbook collection, I get people asking, I just want one of those. I want a book that has like 5 ingredient recipes or easy quick dinners, or I'm just starting out cooking, what do I do? So this is one you would point them towards for that?
Yes, this is based on scratch cooking, so it is not, crack open a can of this and make a box of that and mix them together.
Sponsored by.
There is not a recipe for tuna casserole anywhere in here. Completely valid stuff, but this is about scratch cooking. He does get into using some, canned and, prepared ingredients in a few places, but he doesn't really rely on that. But you can. I will say that his attitude towards canned chicken broth is a little bit snooty.
Is it? Well,
I thought
20 years
so.
at Chez Panisse, I'm sure they're Sure, they know the names
I
of every
love
chicken
using
that went into
real
that.
chicken broth, homemade stuff.
Right.
But the attitude that if you don't have homemade, use water.
Take it with
I'm okay with canned chicken
take it with a
broth.
pinch
There
of
are
salt. Yeah.
there are places.
So does he encourage readers to start with the basics but then be creative? Does he give suggestions on how to do that?
Very much.
Okay.
So he talks about the basic stuff, and then he gives, okay, this is how you can change this up to give it a little bit of flair. You can take it in this direction. You can go that direction.
That's cool.
This is very much the way I cook.
Yes.
This is very much the way I learned to cook.
Yes.
And it allows you to go in and fiddle with stuff. It talks about how to do simple preparations with things like beans and veg, and how to not overcomplicate things, how to not ruin things.
Yeah.
It is not a vegetarian cookbook. It does deal with meat, but it does not focus on meat.
It's good in this economy.
Yes.
That's a good
yes,
thing to have.
Yes. So you do have to have a basic knowledge of techniques. It's not going in and teaching you how to chop an onion. You do have to have some idea of how to, do basic veg prep.
Oh, that's what YouTube is for,
How to, what saute means, how to, simmer things, what to do with an oven. Because it's not just, appetizers and main dishes and all. It includes, the last chapter is on desserts. I mean, there's, it shows you how to make a cake. A couple of different ways.
If I were trying to put myself in his shoes a little, if I were a parent sending out a child, my first child I was sending out into the world, I would want them to have opportunities to give themselves some comfort. And so some cookbook authors look at a dessert chapter and say, it's not worth it. It's frivolous. I don't think so. I think that's a really fast, easy way to create a sense of home for yourself, especially if you're a kid. You're just like, I had a bad day. I can't go home and my parents aren't here to cook for me. So maybe I'll just bake something, make the place smell good, and be able to just have that moment. So that's really nice that was included. I always appreciate that.
And to be fair, I mean, this guy's got a serious background as a foodie, so there are a couple of places where he touches on some ingredients that are not necessarily inexpensive or mainstream, but most of the stuff in here is stuff that you can easily afford on a budget.
Sure.
Either as a young person just starting out, or if things are just a little tight.
Well, some of us need a return to basics with cooking because there's a lot out there. It's so aspirational, but it's not realistic.
You can overcomplicate a lot of things,
Yes.
and you can get really crazy with stuff. Now,
And it's
this
a great
is
way
not
to frustrate
30-minute
yourself.
meals.
Right.
There are some things in here that take some time, but there are also ways to cut some corners on some of that.
Yeah,
And
there's
we can touch on a little of that as we get into what I actually made.
Well, and I think too, it's not about the speed at which you're able to do something. It's about having a process that feels like you can sink into it, so that cooking doesn't have to be it's all about the end result. It's about just the meditative process.
And as you practice some of these skills and get better, speed comes.
Yes.
Now, I know people that can
Things
spend
become
20 minutes
muscle
chopping an
memory.
onion.
Yeah.
If you learn the process and practice it a little bit, it doesn't take 20 minutes to chop an onion unless you're using a penknife.
So what did you make out of this book?
I actually challenged myself a little bit. Okay. And I don't mean technique-wise, I mean flavor-wise, because one of the things that's covered in here is tomato soup. Yes, very simple, very easy. I love tomatoes and I love soup, and I have always disliked tomato soup.
Okay.
However, I tried 2 different tomato soup recipes in here. There was one that was Papa al Pomodoro. It was thickened with stale bread.
All right.
Delicious.
Okay.
Very thick.
Winner.
But very tasty. Very simple ingredients. Basically, you're starting off with, tomatoes and onion and garlic, olive oil, basil, salt, chicken broth. You could use water, you could use veg stock, you could use, tomato juice, and then you're thickening it with toasted, bread, It was delicious.
And substantial.
And yes.
Yes.
Exactly. Super simple, very tasty, a little bit of a surprise because again, I have always disliked tomato soup.
Were you brought up on Campbell's? Yeah.
I like canned soup.
It's fine.
I don't dislike canned soup.
Sure.
I dislike canned tomato soup.
Okay.
And it has set my expectations for years. This changed my mind.
Okay.
I also made a tomato bisque, which had the same base. Tomatoes, onions, garlic, a little salt, a little olive oil, and it was thickened with rice rather than bread. Similar flavor profile. It did involve using some fennel seed, which I took the time to toast first.
Speaking my language.
You know what? Also very, very good. And it talked about a couple of different ways to finish that, as far as what kind of texture you were looking for. Now, I will say that the first recipe with the bread, I took the time to use homegrown tomatoes because right now is that season, and I have got a pile of them on my kitchen counter.
Brag. Yeah. You're like, hey.
All I did was stick them in the ground and pick them.
Sure.
No brag.
Yeah.
So I took the time to do the roasted tomato puree that he talks about and used it, and very tasty. Now the twist that I did on that, he recommended a very simple garnish, and it was the first way I tried it was just with a little bit of olive oil.
Okay.
Now, as I had this stuff in the fridge, I said, I'm going to try this not only hot, I'm going to try it cold. So I tried it cold, and I thought, what else am I going to do with this? Because it's got a lot of basil in it already.
Sure.
I took a couple of those ripe tomatoes and chopped them up and threw them into the soup. Because I ate it cold this time.
Sure.
Drizzled a little bit of olive oil on it. The play between the raw ripe tomato and the roasted tomato. Oh my.
Yes.
Yes. Liked it a lot.
A light bulb. That's so cool.
Yeah. So
see, you got creative. You tried your own thing with it.
And that's one of the things in here.
Yeah.
You can take these base recipes and riff on them. That's the point.
Yeah.
You start with the basics and then go from there.
I like too. It sounds like, again, with working with base recipes, the nice thing is it's a good way to explore whether or not you like something, and you're not overcommitting to buying a lot of ingredients.
Yes.
And you're also able to say, if you don't like a recipe, if it's a simpler recipe, it's easier to pinpoint what you maybe didn't like about it, as opposed to something with 30 ingredients where it's like, well, this turns me off to this dish forever. It's like, maybe just this version was terrible and you actually, there is hope. But if it's something this basic, then it's easier to pull apart like what might have not gone the way you wanted it to. So that's a good way to develop some instincts, I think.
And when I went back and did the other recipe, I used canned tomatoes. You know what?
Really good. Good, because I'm a canned tomato truther over here, so
some of the other recipes in here use
tomatoes.
fresh, and some of them use canned.
Yeah.
And he gives you the permission to go back and forth, and I did. And I used canned tomatoes.
Yeah.
And you know what? It was just as good.
What a college student might, for example, try.
If you don't happen to have a pile of fresh tomatoes and you don't want to take the time to roast and, blah, blah, blah. Crack open a can of crushed.
Works. I'm happy to hear it.
It does.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. So, very pleased. And while I did mention that it is aimed at, folks who don't necessarily have a background in cooking, even as someone who has been cooking for decades and spent well over 10 years working in professional kitchens, I learned things.
See, that's key.
I did.
Yeah.
I won't say I learned
That's
a ton
a big
of things
endorsement.
because a lot of this stuff is stuff that I already know and have known for a long time. But there were a couple of things that were like, oh.
It's easy to get if you're entrenched in something long enough, like with cooking, if it's a hobby and a job for you, it's really easy to develop these sort of convoluted processes that may actually, there's a simpler way, and you're like just like, oh, Actually, I've been preparing for a sewing workshop that I'm doing, and I've been learning things about,
Yeah.
I just learned it was like, you don't have to always double up on your thread. And I was like, I thought you always had to do that, but it's not a rule. Sometimes you just make rules for yourself. And so I've been sewing since I was, 8 years old, but
The way
going
you
back
first
to
learned it is
basics,
the right way.
yes, going back to
Not
basics,
necessarily.
there's something to be said for it.
There's a different way to approach things sometimes.
Because
and
you have
yeah.
to be a learner always,
Yeah.
otherwise you just get stuck.
Yeah,
So
this, in a lot of ways, this was very familiar, but in a couple of ways, it challenged some of my perceptions
Yeah.
and made me think about a couple of things a little bit differently, and I learned a few things.
that's a great balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with this book.
All right.
Really
Well,
impressed.
I'll try
And I
to-
would recommend it to a lot of
I'll
people.
try to get done with, I'm going to take it right out of your hands, and I'll try to get done with it before this video airs so other people can check it out too.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I have been yammering on for quite a while.
Yeah.
Tell me.
I would
Talk
never
to
say
me.
that, but no. No, the enthusiasm. I am also very enthusiastic about my choice. I remember when this came into the library, I saw it on our viewing cart, which is where we check things in before they actually go out to the public. And I did have a page through at that point. It was last year, but now I've actually had a chance to sit down and get familiar with this book. So this is Wafu Cooking. Sonoko Sakai is a veteran of kitchens, and I don't know that she's a professional cook, but she's done a lot with cookbook writing. I think she has a picture book as well. So this is not her first cookbook, but it sort of follows her own trajectory as a person in that she was born in New York State to Japanese immigrant parents, but then proceeded to live all over the country and all over the world. She did live in Japan for a time, but also in Europe. Her husband's family is also Japanese, I believe, but her own family, she's got Swiss relatives as well. So her experience in both a cooking and a life sense is that she has had influences from all over the place that have kind of amalgamated into just this always wanting to explore different flavors and different cultures, and this is what Wafu Cooking is. I did not know this term before picking up this book, but it basically means Japanese style. So what I found really fun about this book, and what I think a lot of readers will find fun about it too, is that it's not just traditional Japanese recipes, although there are plenty of those. A lot of it is recipes that may be familiar to you already, but use a couple of Japanese ingredients to make them wafu. So she will cook like her mother used to make lasagna, and that was a big deal, but she would always put miso in her bolognese, and she would serve the lasagna with a side of rice, and that's how she grew up having it. So it's about taking recipes that may be something you're more used to, but throwing in a few ingredients and techniques that make it more Japanese style. So, and yeah, she gets into a lot of detail. What I like too about this book is there are some simpler recipes in here. It's a great way to explore ingredients that you may not be familiar with. She really demystifies and kind of makes it less intimidating for a lot of ingredients that you might see on the shelf at your local grocery store, but you may not know what to do with them, or you may be afraid you won't be able to use it up before it turns, so you just don't bother, but you're missing out, on a lot of really fun things to enhance your cooking with. So she gets into, there are simpler recipes in here. There are also, there's a chapter on fermentation. So if you feel like you would like to make your own miso, for example, she shows you how to do that, because she's a very involved cook. So she does all kinds of things. So this book is, it's divided up like most cookbooks would be. She goes into a lot of explanation and a lot of cultural and historical background about what she's talking about. So she goes into the different ingredients, the different flavors and seasonings and condiments. She has recipes for all of these things, but she also says, of course, you can use store-bought if you prefer. But then she gets into, okay, here's a breakfast chapter, soups, vegetables. She has a whole chapter on pickles that you can make, curries and stews, then seafood, then meats, then noodles and dumplings, and then finally into sweets and baked goods. So she really covers a lot of ground on this. I made 3 recipes out of this book. one of the recipes was necessary for the other two. So I made her curry powder. I have never had Japanese curry before, but I wanted to try. I brought you some, and
smells delicious.
I gotta say, the smell that still lingers in my home from toasting spices and making this is really something. I actually part of the process of making a curry powder is that you toast the whole spices, or preferably you toast the whole spices. Most recipes will have you do that. So I got a little clip right after they came out of the skillet. Can you hear it? Can you hear the crackling?
I can.
Yeah, that's how you know. So that was pretty cool. So I did make the curry powder. It has an arm's length list of ingredients, but nothing that's too hard to track down. I always encourage people to shop at international markets for spices if they can, because you're going to get a lot more for a lot less money. So that's a great way to explore something like this. Her curry powder also adds a little bit of dried shiitake mushroom and a little bit of kombu seaweed, like a little bit. So I don't know that
a little bit of an umami,
a little
undertone.
Earthiness. Yeah. So that was cool. So I have a whole lot of that now that I will be using. So then, having made the curry powder, I then went on to make the 5 dal masala, which is a kind of Indian style. What's interesting about Japanese cooking and Japanese curry, you might see it on restaurant menus. But what's interesting about Japanese curry is it actually came to Japan, I believe, by way of Great Britain. So Great Britain was inspired they have their own like sort of curry culture that was sort of adopted or adapted from Indian cooking, which then made its way to Japan by way of Great Britain. So there's been some adaptations on the way. This recipe, it's a pretty standard curry. 5 dal means it's a 5 dal mix, so it's like 5 types of lentils and beans, which I found at Meijer, believe it or not. So yeah, I was able to get that. It also adds, the curry powder we made, and then it does have a few, like what she'd say, wafu or Japanese style ingredients. So it does add soy sauce, and
looks like I see tofu in there.
There's tofu in there too, which I appreciate
which is also bean based.
It is also bean based. You've got the whole bean family. It's like everyone in the pot together. And then it uses. I just thought it was so good. I got home so late last night. I was stuck in traffic, and then I was just like, I have to make this. I have to get it, made and tested before I come and do the show. So I was cooking for almost 3 hours, doing various things, and then I finally got to sit down and have some, and I was like, the longest full body sigh of my life when I had one bite of that. I was like, it was worth it.
I checked my phone.
It was worth it.
You sent me a picture of it, and I was like, ooh, that looks interesting.
I was like, this is hand claps, like high tens, so good. It was the perfect thing to have. And what I liked about it too is often I skip making a recipe because the recipe just makes so much, but this made like a reasonable amount, so I won't get sick of it before it's gone. So yeah, that was great. I forgot to add lime, which I left my little perfect lime wedge sitting on the counter because my brain was just oatmeal by then, so oh well, next time. And then finally, after that, I went back and made cookies. She has a recipe for these kind of shortbread cookies that also feature the curry powder, believe it or not. So I made those late last night. I brought them in today.
Shortbread and sesame.
Shortbread is a great way. I was gonna say, I wanna use this curry powder on everything, and the shortbread is, if you ever like have a fun ingredient that you wanna showcase in a cookie, like shortbread is the way to go. It's a really good canvas. We know this, we've talked about this.
That cookie workshop?
That cookie workshop we did
together?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the lavender and the
Yep, yeah. It's a great way to showcase ingredients, so I'm really curious to try these. They came out of the oven around 11 last night, and I was just like, no, bed. So, but we have lots to work with. But anyway, so yeah, this book is, just reading through makes you hungry. It just gives you so much inspiration. She has a whole chapter on making ramen. You can make your own ramen noodles, which is actually kind of a interesting process. Traditionally, they use a specific kind of, I forget what the ingredient is called, but to make them have that bouncy, stretchy texture. But she actually shows you how to make your own version of that by just putting baking soda in the oven.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the look of it.
It's an alkaline.
It's an alkaline.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's like, well, if you can't find this one ingredient, here's a dupe for it. So she really does accommodate the fact that you may not be able to find all of these ingredients.
Yeah.
And yeah, some of the other recipes, I'll just read them to you because, you know, I've got them bookmarked. Some of the other things I wanted to try, you saw this, the dashi cheese grits with miso honey butter. So you've got like cheese grits, but they've got some dashi, which is like either using dried tuna or seaweed like stock, and then miso honey butter, which anything with miso and honey in it is speaking my language. That in the breakfast chapter also mochi waffles with black sesame butter. That sounded amazing. I didn't have time to make like 7 or 8 recipes before filming, but these are some things that I am eager to go back to. The spinach with honey goma-ai dressing. This is actually my sister-in-law, her dad's side of the family is Japanese, so she's made this for us before. Her grandmother taught her, so I'm eager to try this version of it. And then what else did I have? In the vegetable chapter, she's got like a charred cabbage. You do it in a pan on the stove. You love cabbage, I know, with some vinegar.
It's not overcooked.
Yeah, she chars it in a pan, so that looked amazing. And yeah, just, you'll see I've got bookmarks placed throughout. It's definitely not a vegetarian cookbook. Oh look, there's Sonoko holding a great big fish, striped bass, yeah. So she's got really, it really covers so much, and she's a really delightful, like warm presence. I really like how enthusiastic she is, and she's very nurturing, and I will be checking out her first book.
I've seen this book. When it came in last year, you and I talked about it.
We did.
I've looked through this.
Which was written in the stars.
One of the things that caught my attention, you know, before you ever did this one was that five dal masala.
I know. I feel like it's like cookbook corner lore at this point that one of us always makes a curry of some kind. It just keeps happening. So well, just lean into it, I say.
You know, I keep making things that are a bowl of red stuff too.
I know. I sent you a picture of my curry, and then I was like, you sent me a picture of curry last month, but it's fine. Yeah. It's fine.
Oh look, another bowl of red stuff.
Another bowl of stuff. Hooray! So it's fine. It's that time of the year. You know, we're all just wanting to eat some cozy foods. But any final thoughts on your 12 recipes?
Final thoughts? Thumbs up.
Thumbs up, 2 thumbs up?
Really liked it, yep.
You've been talking about this book all month. You've been really into it. So
oh yeah.
He's not just doing it for
no,
everybody. He's you're into this for real. Which,
yeah, no, I was impressed.
Yeah.
And I would recommend this to people. And I would say that this would be, if you can, I'm not sure exactly how old it is. I'm not sure exactly how easy it is to find, but I would recommend gifting this to people.
Yeah, I think it's relatively new.
Yeah.
This one's definitely on the newer side. It's from 2024, so we have a copy here, and you can check it out. If you felt like purchasing a copy, you could definitely spend a lot of time with it and go in a lot of directions.
Yeah,
So
if you got an interest in that, you know, Japanese flavor.
Yeah, some like fusion.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of the book you did last month, the Desified.
Yeah, some of the things you were talking about reminded me of that very much.
So it's just like adding Japanese flavors to dishes you might already know.
Taking a spin on things.
Yeah, so really fun. But
yeah.
All right, well,
cool.
This has been Cookbook Corner. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next time.